Yeah.
My audience.
You look at you. Come unto thee, my children.
Bless you, my children.
Oh, no. My Lord.
Yes, this is nice.
Oh my gosh, this is hysterical. All of them. And Henry in spirit, of course. Yes.
Henry in spirit.
Yes. The most hooliganish of them all.
It is Thursday, September 23rd. Last week on Wednesday was our last session with Henry, because little did we know that 3 days later we would be taking him to the veterinary clinic for euthanization. He was really quite fine on Wednesday, and things happened fast.
And he wanted to go into the garden twice in a really happy, positive manner and sit in on his little grass throne and growl at passing dogs. On the Friday night before I realized that on the Saturday things had taken a turn, and the first sign for me was so subtle, but because I had been monitoring him so closely, it was the way he was sitting near the water bowl that gave it away. And I tried to lift his bottom to see if he would walk, and he didn't really want to. He plopped down again. I thought, okay, this isn't great. And then we went into the corridor to go outside. He didn't want to. He plopped down. There was a bit of sunshine hitting his bottom. He didn't respond to it, and I picked him up, brought him into the room where Lon did a lot of his treatments, and he lay on his side, but his face was up and looking alert, and then he did an involuntary small and normal bowel movement, and I realized then we were in trouble, and I called Lon and said I knew it was time, especially as he had brown liquid on his paws and around his mouth. It looked like he'd vomited on himself, but cats don't vomit on their own paws, and I knew something pernicious was going on, so he went right in.
And also his appetite diminished considerably.
Over this was day 3 of a really weak appetite, despite some pred and despite transdermal appetite stimulant.
Right.
And me trying every food I could under the sun.
Right.
And he had his knockout injection. Took a little while, and then when the doctor finally found the vein, which took a while because his blood pressure was so low, a copious amount of brownish blood came streaming out of his affected nostril, in which the nasal lymphoma had allegedly begun, and it was a lot.
A lot. Shockingly.
Yeah, it was.
It shocked all of us.
Yeah, the doctor,
even the doctor,
Lon, and me. I don't think we had a tech with us, no, but it was pretty astonishing. I've never seen anything like it, nor had the doc. And I have since spoken to my oncologist and said that the scabs on his back falling off and looking great, and leading one a little bit to have some hope that things, not that they were going to stop or that they were getting better, but that she had seen it before, that the scabs had been quite severe and they dried up and fell off. That was quite normal, but then all of a sudden the nasal stuff kicked in, affected his appetite, and I asked where this brown blood would have been kept in his body, and my understanding was in his thorax, and swallowed blood which couldn't be processed, and that would have accounted for his slightly distended tummy and also occasionally his wobbly walk. So I got some answers, and then, as I always do, I brought his body back here so that the other cats could acknowledge the fact that he had died, and I feel very strongly about doing that every time one of my cats dies. It's not in their way. They can sniff him, or sometimes Foggy, I've seen Foggy lick the ear of a deceased cat as she passes, and we put flowers on him, and then I took him back in for cremation. And I'm making very slow changes around the apartment so that it's not too much all of a sudden. It's really easy to help others with their grieving process. It's really hard to hold your own hand through it.
Yes.
It's very hard.
Yes.
Because I don't love any of my cats more than the others, but because of the intense process I went through with Henry in his last days, especially when he got blind and he needed my, not guidance, but he needed to be watched over and protected. So that's why I didn't move a single piece of furniture or anything while he was alive, so that he would know exactly where he was going, including into the garden. I wrote his drug notes every day so I would know that he'd got what he needed, and it was 87 days of palliative care from the day he was prescribed appetite stimulant. So from last February of 20, he was doing great and asymptomatic until the lumps started appearing on his back. He had the eye issue, and then we put him on steroids, and then the steroids were halved, and then they went back up again. So we were tweaking stuff as we went along, whatever seemed best for him, knowing all the time that this was nearing the end. But my job was to keep him as comfortable as possible, and he ate for America up until the very end. And then Lon appearing was just a joy and a boon, and Henry responded to it, and he accepted it. And Henry was not the kind of cat, even when he didn't feel at his best, to tolerate anything that he didn't want. So I know that Lon being here for him and working with him really helped him and me and the other cats. And we're settling into the new normal. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but it's only been a few days, so there we go.
And my plan, and I've already discussed this with Basia, is to continue coming over here. It doesn't have to be as frequently because there was more of an urgency.
Yes, absolutely.
But I want to continue. I mean, we've done some major socialization work here as a result of my coming over, working with Henry. And now it will be interesting to see the change in dynamic.
Yes.
And I actually see a little bit of it now in what we just did before with everyone gathered around here. And I'm so happy that the more inaccessible cats became very accessible to me. And we'll just continue that. And it will help everyone in the long run.
I never anthropomorphize, but I do know that one of the cats who had a particularly fractious relationship with Henry, not that any blood was ever drawn, no fur flew, it was just lots of noise and drama, just pre-food aggression, which I think is normal, and as long as no one's hurting anyone, I just used to tell them to behave themselves. She keeps looking around her shoulder like she's going to get jumped on. And
you're speaking about
Pixie.
Pixie, right? And
Harriet used to get jumped on by Henry, but not in a way, because Harriet is gentler than Pixie, but Pixie would really be all fire and brimstone and hiss and spit. And now she's already calmed down, even though it's only been less than a week.
Good.
And I knew that would happen. And Henry was here first, and he was really ill with his first, when his motility stopped in his stomach, and it was touch and go whether we were going to save his life. I didn't want 2 new cats here, but Mama and Pixie came at a time when I should have had peace and quiet for Henry's recovery, and somehow that tough little cookie got through it. He rejected the feeding tube, which wasn't a throat one, it was a stomach bypass one, and his body just went, no, don't want it. And then we fed him, and then he did a poop, and we were so delighted, and we realized that Dr. Ferrari had saved his life, and he was just going to be in recovery. And I didn't have to crate him, and I just kept my eye on them so that no one was picking on anyone. And
how old was Henry then?
Henry was only 9 months old, which is why this was so shocking. We could not. He had 3 operations, and I remember being on a fashion shoot, and Dr. Ferrari saying, "Well, I just need your verbal permission. We're going in. This is the last surgery we think his body can withstand. Just as long as you understand that." And I said, "Just do it. He's only 9 months. Why would we not? It doesn't make sense if you don't." And it worked. And so when I say to people Henry dodged medical bullets and that he was using up, I don't believe the stuff about cats and their 9 lives, but he was lucky that I was able to afford to get that done, and it was worth every penny, and he was just nothing but joy. So he continued to be a blind cat with cancer hissing at pit bulls on the street right up until his last night. So I'm glad I'm able to talk about this without crying, but that was one spirited cat.
Yes. What's great for me, from my perspective, also, my job I consider being making the animals as comfortable as possible,
Yeah.
is that Henry was, even after the lymphoma diagnosis, was doing okay. Right?
Oh, he was asymptomatic
And,
for
right.
about a year and a half.
And to get that far and be feeling absolutely fine with a big appetite, and then suddenly we get to a point where we need to resolve through euthanization.
Mm-hmm.
He was good up to the end.
Oh, yeah.
And what more could we ask for?
There was nothing. The thing is that, of course, I just was hoping that I was wise enough and in tune with Henry enough to be receptive to his language for when he was ready to go, and that's how it worked out.
And you asked for it too.
Oh, I begged for it. And I mean, he was so communicative with his eyes. All you, in his little tree that we've now got rid of because he made me keep it against my will. He used to roll up in his tree, and he used to be asleep, and I'd say his name, and he would do a little flip and just look up at me with loving eyes, and I just used to smother him in kisses, and he was just great with it. And then there was other stuff where he just wouldn't have it. Like, he did not want to be picked up. He did not want to ever be picked up.
He let me pick him up.
But he let you pick him up.
He did not resist at all, and I picked him up a number of times.
Yeah, you did. You got it. You got him right. You so got him right. There was that one time when he gave that little howl that upset me so much, when I panicked and I thought that he was going to walk down the street, and I don't think I hurt him. It was just a new way that he'd suddenly found of vocalizing towards the end, which we'd never heard before. And I had to stop beating myself up that I'd done something terribly wrong. Actually, I'm thinking when he was really well, Byron would come up to him, and she's such a social cat. She wants to be loved by everybody, and I plucked her from a colony of 6 other black cats because she was going to go blind if I hadn't. She had really bad conjunctivitis, and she used to come up to about 6 inches away from Henry, realize it was him, and then go, oh no, he's the one that whops me, and then pull away. And it was just sort of heartbreaking, and I wanted to go, oh Henry, just let her headbutt you once, but he was not. That was not him.
Yeah.
It just wasn't him. He didn't want to have anyone lick him or wash him. Didn't want to play with anyone. And the running through the apartment, he stopped doing very vigorous exercise after his life-saving operation because he had water in his thorax. I mentioned it to the doc one time that he... Oh, hi. Hi. You're being very quiet. Do you want to say hi to Lon? Yeah?
Some lap time?
Even though Lon's not wearing a frock? Well, not today anyway. Go on. Do you want to go have some lap time? Go on.
Okay.
Where's the fluffy blanket? Oh, good girl. So I talked to the doc about how he would pant if all the cats were chasing a toy, and the doc said he's self-regulating because he knows what his body can and can't take, which blew my mind. Because you could see him slightly panting when the others were still running around like lunatics, and whatever the surgeries had been through, it had affected the longevity of each of his play periods, which didn't matter because he brought me a skanky mouse every night, and he loved catnip, and he used to play with all the flying toys plus the laser light, but again he stopped himself. That was really interesting, like the wisdom of an animal's body calling the shots, which was new to me. And there was no reason why the night before, to go back to him having a great life and quality of life, there was nothing the night before that made me think, oh heavens, tomorrow is the day, because he sat at the front door, asked me to open it. I opened it, we went down the stoop, he went and sat on his grass throne, a stranger stopped by to say what a lovely cat he was, he ate some grass and then came back in, and twice during the day and in the evening, and that was one of the first times he did it twice. So there was no reason why I think, oh yeah, tomorrow he's probably going to be really awful. And I mean,
I wasn't expecting it.
no. If I had had him euthanized the day before, it would have been okay in terms of medical reasons, that he had plenty going on that meant sure, this isn't too soon, but it wasn't done too soon, and thank goodness it wasn't done when he was in any kind of real pain and discomfort. He just looked like which is what I always hope, that there's a look that says, okay, I'm done now, I'm throwing in the towel. Can we get this done? Again, not to anthropomorphize, but I knew because, I mean, when you pick your cat up and they just don't really want to walk, that's kind of a sign.
Yeah, that morning when you called me.
And we talked twice, right?
2 or 3 times. And
yeah.
I thought, well, you know, he's probably just having an off day.
Which he has done, yeah.
But you'd always bounce right back.
Yeah.
But then the more you described to me, and, you know, there was the appetite thing going on, but when you said that he was having difficulty walking, then I thought, maybe we really need to investigate this.
Yeah.
And it really turned out, I mean, we probably really were
on the money.
It was confirmed when we got there,
yeah,
and we were in process, that our timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
And that's just ideal.
And the only difference between his appointment on Wednesday and the one where he went to be euthanized was that he was very quiet in the carrier.
Yes.
And before that he was doing his scratching and rolling around, and it's astonishing how resilient he was and happy and coming onto the bed and trying to make me get up and feed him and finding new comfy spots to sleep, which I know is a sign of sometimes making your body more comfortable when you're not, but he had his favorite 2 spots on the bed and 2 beds out here, and there was no negative interaction with any of the cats unless someone accidentally got in his face, and he let out that little sort of petulant meow. But yeah, so while I am absolutely heartbroken, I'm happy that I can talk about this without bursting into tears. Lon, I'm so grateful to you. And we all are in this house.
I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to see him through.
Thank you.
Because I know,
yeah,
and based on what you told me in his history and his reaction to other people and not wanting to be touched at any length, even by you,
yep,
he got it.
yeah,
He just got it right away.
he so did.
And
I feel honored.
I feel honored too.
So, you know, when you said you were committed to him, I just wanted to burst into tears. That was just amazing, and I've never had that before, and it's always been not a lonely journey because I can always pick up the phone and talk to the doc, but I felt so supported by you. Thank you so much. And it's a knock-on effect for the other cats too.
Oh yes.
So that I'm able to, you know, we're grieving, but we're going to get through this.
Yes.
And no one is terrified. No one's looking for him, which was one of my requirements. And yeah.
So we had this treat gathering here.
Yes.
And now Foggy is just
normal.
And Pixie behind you is just on the pile of clothes, and
oh, she loves that. That was the pile of clothes that was on Henry's tree.
And she's just totally content.
That's my sewing pile, and she's made she's made that her own.
Yeah. And everyone else has gone to their little resting places.
I bet you Soames is on. I see you, Soames.
He's on the stove.
Soames is on the stove. I see you. Soamesy. He's fast asleep. And Byron has probably gone back. I thought I saw someone's paws, but I think it's actually 2 mice. Yes, it is. So I think Harriet's under the couch.
Yes.
So everyone's quiet and peaceful.
Yeah.
So there we are.
So we shall continue this.
Yes. End of one chapter and on to the next.
Right.
And I learnt so much. And I don't even know. I know that I'm unaware of some of the stuff I learnt. Not to do a Rumsfeld, but I really don't know some of the stuff that I know.
I got the sense of Henry as being very self-assured.
Oh, heck yes.
And confident. He was the alpha cat, I'm assuming. Or was there an alpha cat?
No, he was right after Valentine died, who I think got to 17 also. As soon as Valentine left us through kidney failure, Henry and his brother Hinckley stepped in. Hinckley fell to lymphoma on both kidneys, and it was very fast and very severe. So Henry lost one of his sidekicks, but Soames became his other sidekick without them actually being affectionate with each other. They were kind of the boys' club. And Henry would torment... Did he torment the males? A little bit. Dennis, my old leukemia boy. But not much. But he would love to sit behind the glass doors and wait for the girls to come for breakfast. And I would look for the girls, and they weren't there. And then I would find Henry ready to pounce on them. He would ambush them. He was bad to the bone.
And this is how he got his nickname, Henry the Hooligan.
Yeah, friends of mine who stayed here once when I was away. Oh, actually no, it was Airbnb guests. They called him a gangster, which so suited him. Or he'd sit under the coffee table and the tablecloth was just begging to be hidden behind and then pounced
Right.
from behind. So he loved all of that. Even hiding next to a litter tray was joy enough for him. He was so naughty.
But there were never any real serious
No.
behavioral issues that I'm getting
No.
from what you've always
No.
spoken about.
People say, oh, do they all get on? I say, hell no. And you kind of wonder why I'm so sort of laissez-faire about it. And it's because I don't believe that there's any behavior modification that I can implement at this point that's going to stop Pixie from being so paranoid about being jumped on by Henry, because I can't stop Henry jumping on Pixie. End of story. And no one was ever harmed. No, there were no eye scratch lesions, there were no puncture wounds, nothing. So
Nothing requiring intervention.
no. So I just let them be. You know, I think the most interventionist I got was, you know, you don't have to live like this, right? And that just fell on. It just fell on flat ears.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course I'm remembering all the silly stuff. Oh, God. Him playing, I have film, him playing under the sheets, changing the bed sheets was the best thing in the world, because it was the only time he was allowed to bite my hand. And he was so smart. He knew that me putting my hand and kind of going like this over the thin sheet, if I trimmed his claws it was fine, but if I hadn't it hurt. But he knew that he was allowed to do it then. And any other time, he knew that hands were not a plaything, and he never ever attacked my hands. He's so smart.
Yeah.
So he loved to slide in under the clean sheet, roughhouse with me, and then I would seal him in, and then kind of do a ridiculous peekaboo, make sure that he knew where his exit was, and that was it. He was done. So he was just a joy. Every day was joy. Henry was attacking the vacuum cleaner in a real, like, swatting really hard, like pat, pat, pat. And if you didn't switch it on, he wasn't that interested in killing it. But if you switched it on and it had the buzzing noise, and you, whether you had the brush on the end of it or if it was just the pole, he would whack it, and it was hilarious. I never pushed it towards him to frighten him, but he would hunt it out.
Interesting.
He would come and find me vacuuming. Like, I've never seen a cat want to kill a vacuum cleaner. It's just, that's how he got his
This
name.
is self-assuredness.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to be able to remember the good things. It really is.
Of course.
It's joyful.
Of course. And that's why we go through this.
Yes, of course it is.
And it's worth.
It's
worth it all.
important, and I'm remembering to write it all down, because it is just too much happiness that he gave me for
Yes.
that little puffball.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, one of the vets had an opinion about a bike in New York City, that you don't ever own a bike. You just sort of have it for a while before someone steals it, and then they weighed the amount they paid for it against how many years they had it, and said, well, I've had it, okay, so I spent $1,000 on it, and I've had it for 15 years, so actually that works out pretty cheap per week. And I was thinking about how much Henry cost me over the years, and you know, it worked out cheaper than a bike, and he was cuter and brought me more joy.
That it's what they provide us.
Yeah,
to.
totally.
It's worth You can't put a
It was like,
value
I
on it.
don't care that I'm not going on holiday. I'm going to save your bloody life.
Right.
Like, there's no question here.
Right.
So, so yeah. Anyway, it's really lovely to talk about the positive things.
Of course.
It really is, and we shall see how the kids react to you. I mean, they know you so well now, and it was so funny. It was like a quick visit. Like no one's coming out and expecting anything. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Soames, I know if we put Soames on the front bed, he would probably do that, but he's just fine where he is. He's not seeking you out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they did that at first, like many of them usually do,
Yeah.
and we had our engagement
Mhm.
and treats, and now everyone's napping.
Yeah. Everyone's happy.
So thank you, Henry.
Yes. My little Henry. He's gonna. I should get his. I can't. I did actually amend the engraving issue.
Oh, you did?
I did. I got it amended to Henry the Hooligan on his casket. I just couldn't think straight when I was being asked.
Exactly. The choices that you had to make in that situation.
It was too nuts. I thought, okay, the picture, the engraving, I can't deal with it right now.
Right.
So yesterday when I took Somesy in for his annual, I amended it. So it's going to say what he was. Yeah. Are you sleepy?
We have some more fun work to do, and they will get the benefit of it, and so will we.
You. Thank you again, Lon.
Oh, thank you.
What was the expression that I used earlier on? My grief swamp. I'm sitting in my grief swamp, but I'm still able to function, and it is what it is. The day after he was gone, I went and bought 2 of the biggest trees that I could find to commemorate him, and the people at Gowanus Nursery completely got it, completely understood his colouring, and delivered them for me.
So we'll continue this, but we just wanted to put some closure on this.
Yes.
There's one more Henry video to come out, but we just needed to do this as an announcement and some closure, and we've done that very well, I think.
And as someone that's never had this before, if I hadn't been Henry's owner, what I would take away from this is that getting treatment from Lon, as we both knew, was not about cure or reversal. It was about quality of life, while the cat was on a journey which I knew to be inevitable, and that I was delighted to get some support to keep his quality of life at the highest standard possible.
And it worked.
Yeah,
with him.
it did.
It worked beautifully. I think that the work accomplished exactly what it needed to accomplish, and that's it. Can't ask for more.
Thank you so much, Lon.
You're welcome. You're welcome.